You want people to come back to the South in order to be able to exercise their political power better than what they have in the North, right?
Absolutely.
All right, everyone, welcome back to Anton's class. If you're new here, my name's Anton, and I'm all about helping you discover more freedom through travel and life at home or abroad. Anyways, today's video is on topic because it is about traveling, but it's not about traveling abroad, okay? This video is gonna be titled, Black People, You Need to Move, or something like that, all right? And I'm not talking about moving abroad, which is something I've talked about often. I'm talking about moving somewhere within the United States. And this is a very important topic. So I'm going to go over the research, the data, and then I'm going to give my opinion at the end. And of course, as always, I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments below. What do you think about this topic? All right. So first and foremost, what are we talking about? To give you some background information, let's talk about the Great Migration.
Searching for a better and safer place to live away from the violence and the Jim Crow laws that defined the South, Tristan's family was part of the Great Migration. Nearly 100 years ago, about 9 in 10 African Americans lived in the South. But soon after the start of the 1900s, things started to change. Between 1915 and 1970, about 6 million Black people left states like Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi.
As we saw during the Great Migration, it was a time period where African Americans in droves fled the South to escape all of the chaos, nonsense going on in the South. My family included, right? My family fled the South, and my father's side of the family and mother's side of the family, both African American families, fled the South and went and settled in Denver, Colorado.
Moving to northern states, for many, it was their entry into the middle class.
Black people went to California, right? Oakland area, Los Angeles, San Diego, went to Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, the tri-state area, all over the place, right? But my family settled in Denver, which was called the Black West at the time. Pam Grier, the actress, you may have heard of her. Her family was also a Black family who settled in Denver. Now, I also had family who was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they fled Tulsa and went to Denver. We all know what happened in Tulsa, right? There were the race riots, which were really white folk feeling insecure and fragile and deciding to terrorize and harm and harass my family and the other Black families who were thriving in creating flourishing communities and business in Tulsa, right? They were shocked that just post-slavery, not even 100 years after the end of slavery, our ancestors were creating thriving communities. And so what did they do? They terrorized and destroyed and bombed our communities. My family fled Tulsa and went to Denver, Colorado. My dad's family was also in the South, and they fled and went to Denver, Colorado. So in Denver, our Black people also created flourishing communities. My mom and my grandmother on my mom's side tell me really interesting stories about their time in Denver and these flourishing Black communities where there were Black-owned businesses, Black-owned restaurants, Black doctors, Black shoe stores, you name it, right? There's an area in Denver that was called Five Points, and it was a historically Black area where the Kellys, my mom's side of the family, really thrived, as well as Park Hill. That was a historically Black community, and there were working class, middle class, and upper class Black families thriving and creating community in Denver at that time. And Five Points, my grandma always tells me these interesting stories that her and her sisters and brothers, the Kellys, if you were Black and in Denver at the time, you definitely knew of the Kellys. So if you're watching this and you are from Denver or have family in Denver, you know the Kellys. You've known a Kelly or two, all right? And they really thrived in the Black West or Denver, Colorado. I'm sure a lot of you watching this have interesting stories as well of your family, your grandparents or great-grandparents fleeing the South and moving and establishing themselves in different communities around the United States. Now, around the time of integration, right, Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement, our people were really fighting for social integration. But I want to read you an interesting quote, all right? that Martin Luther King likely said, and it was about how he feared that he was moving his people into a burning house, or integrating his people into a burning house. So activist and actor Harry Belafonte shared a similar moment about his friend. Midway through the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. realized that the struggle for integration would ultimately become a struggle for economic rights, right? Integration is one thing, but economic empowerment is something different. So you might integrate with a group of people, but if you don't have that economic power, then what does it really mean? Belafonte reflected, I remember the last time we were together at my home, he and Martin Luther King, shortly before he was unalived. He seemed quite agitated and preoccupied, and I asked him what the problem was. According to Belafonte, King responded, I've come upon something that disturbs me deeply. We have fought hard and long for integration, as I believe we should have, and I know we will win, but I have come to believe that we are integrating into a burning house. I'm afraid that America has lost the moral vision she may have had. And I'm afraid that even as we integrate, we are walking into a place that does not understand that this nation needs to be deeply concerned with the plight of the poor and disenfranchised. Until we commit ourselves to ensuring that the underclass is given justice and opportunity, we will continue to perpetuate the anger and violence that tears the soul of this nation. I fear I am integrating my people into a burning house. Wow, really sit with that for a while, right? Sit with that for a while. I have heard that quote before, not in its entirety, but I'd heard that Martin Luther King had started to fear the results of integration, okay? And you may have heard the saying, right, that white ice is colder. And that essentially says that black people at the time were really starting to crave and desire to patronize white businesses, all right? They started to want to integrate more. And what happened as a result of that was that it created black flight from black communities and black businesses. And black businesses suffered as a result. There's an article that says 1920s black-owned safe bus. We didn't have to ride in the back is the theme of this article. We didn't have to ride in the back of their buses. We could have still rode in our own buses and black-owned buses. We could have patronized black-owned businesses, right? We didn't have to be treated as second-class citizens in their businesses. We should have just continued to support and uplift black-owned businesses, okay? And so I want to talk about that now. There are a lot of advocates providing and presenting solutions for black folk, and one of those solutions is to move to the South. Why would that be important? Well, let's talk about the black dollar for a minute. According to a 2023 study by the University of Georgia's Selig Center for Economic Growth, a dollar circulates within the black community for about 6 hours, while it circulates for much longer in other communities. In the Jewish community for 20 days, and the Asian for 30 days, okay? And circulates in Latino community 6 times before it leaves. And it stays in the African American community only for 6 hours. That is devastating news, folks. When we earn a dollar as black folks, it instantly leaves our community. It does not go and recharge and circulate and empower our people. We see that the Jewish community, when they earn a dollar, it circulates for 20 days within their community, passing from hand to hand, family to family, business to business, circulating and enriching the Jewish community. The Asian community does the same thing, right? For 30 days, even longer. So they earn a dollar, it circulates, they purchase from other Asian Americans, right? Stimulating and circulating and enriching their community. That's incredibly important. So what does that have to do with moving to the South? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's go ahead and watch a couple of video clips.
In Atlanta, one of the fastest growing cities in the country, tech startups are helping to fuel the boom.
I mean, immediately.
Tristan Walker's business is part of it. Walker and Company makes health and beauty products for people of color. Bevel is one of their most popular brands. A year ago, Tristan relocated his company here from Silicon Valley, a radical move for a guy who grew up in Queens, New York.
Explain the proposition.
The proposition is simply to return to the places where you were majorities or large percentages of the population to consolidate political power. Before the Great Migration, 90% of all Black people lived in the American South. At the end of the Civil War, 3 Southern states were majority Black. Another 3 were within 4 percentage points of being majority Black. It is conceivable that Black people today would control up to 14 Senate seats. They could control more electoral college votes than New York State and California combined. It would have been a major shift in power, and it can still be. The only thing that Black people have to do, and not even all of them have to do this, but large numbers have to do what smaller numbers are already doing, which is to return to the South.
Come back to the South in order to be able to exercise their political power better than what they have in the North, right?
Absolutely. There is no real power, political power, that Black people have in the northern states. There is no real power, political power, that Black people have in the northern states.
All right, so we see that their solution or proposal is to move to the South. Now, I have the book by Charles M. Blow, The Devil You Know, A Black Power Manifesto. And I just want to read one of the quotes, okay? It says here, the proposition is simple. As many Black descendants of the Great Migration as possible should return to the South from which their ancestors fled. They should do so with moral and political intentionality, and as many Black people not descendant of American slavery as possible should join in their resettlement. It sounds simple, right? And it's simple enough. I want us to really chew on this and think about this as a people, as Black folk. When we consider how the US dollar, when we earn money, it does not circulate within our community. It does not impact our communities in general, and it is not helping our communities grow. All right? So I feel like it is imperative that myself and others start reflecting on these issues. And as he said, it's not necessarily for every single Black person in America to do that, to move, but it probably is very important for a large percentage of us to move. And so I want to read one more thing in closing. This is by Dr. Claude Anderson. I'm sure you've heard of him if you've been a part of this community and have researched economic growth for Black people. And what he proposes is a high-speed rail, among other things, to sort of stimulate business and connectivity in the Black Belt. Okay, the Black Belt, of course, is the region in the South where there's already a high concentration of Black people, and it would span several states and cities. So let me read this really quick in closing. According to Finley Group President Richard Finley, we have documented a viable and compelling vision of a southern HSR corridor that will generally follow along the Interstate 20 highway. The system will revolutionize intercity and interstate travel through the 5 southern states, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas, and bring investment, business, and job opportunities to the region. Train stations will be established in Atlanta, Birmingham, Jackson, Shreveport, and Dallas. The demographics of these metropolitan areas comprise a combined 57% Black population, which is more than 4 times the national average. So, what do you guys think? I want to know your opinions respectfully in the comments below. Please be respectful. We can engage, we can disagree, but let's do it respectfully. Please, we're adults here, all right? My personal opinion is that this is a good idea, and it's something that I've discussed with my friends and family, and it's something that I would love to really work towards. And I would love to encourage you guys to at least consider it with your group of friends, with your group of confidants, family members. Really talk about this, all right? And see where you arrive. Do your own research, of course, and see what conclusion you come to. Now, you all know I'm an advocate of traveling internationally, especially to Africa. And in the past, I've traveled to Africa. I've lived in Africa, in Rwanda, Namibia, and I'm a huge proponent of South Africa. I love South Africa. And ideally, if I could, I would have like maybe a home or something, retirement situation in South Africa and here in the United States in the American South, so that I could economically support and uplift African Americans, my people, okay? And again, this is not being anti any other group of people. This is just about worrying or caring about the upliftment of our people, right? So that we can be economically sound and stable and be able to support our children, our grandchildren, and our communities. Anyways, thank you so much for stopping by Anton's class. I would love to have you back. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Bye.